You wake up, grab your phone, check notifications. You shower at the right time, eat at the right time, leave for work at the right time. You get there, clock in, do your tasks, follow procedures. You come home, pay bills, watch TV, sleep. Tomorrow, all over again. You call this normal life. Max Weber would call this an iron cage. But here's the question that's going to bother you for the next 12 minutes. What if all this organization, all this efficiency, all this rationality you consider natural isn't natural at all? What if it's just the most sophisticated form of control ever invented by humanity? Weber, the German sociologist who dissected the soul of modernity, discovered something terrifying. We don't live in a free society. We live inside a giant control machine that disguises itself as progress. And the most disturbing part, we built this machine ourselves. We feed it ourselves. We locked ourselves inside it ourselves. You know why you go to work every day? It's not just for the money. It's because an entire system was created to make you believe this is right, normal, the only way to live. Weber called this the rationalization of the world. Others would call it collective brainwashing. You want to understand how control works in your life? How you were trained to obey without questioning? How efficiency became more important than your humanity? Then stay here with me, because if you can handle these 12 minutes, if you can face what Weber discovered, you'll never look at your routine with the same eyes again. And if this bothers you, if this burns inside, don't leave. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Because those who awaken cannot awaken alone. They need to wake others up too. Here's what they taught you. Hard work pays off. Follow the rules and you'll succeed. The system is fair. Merit wins. If you're struggling, it's because you're not trying hard enough. If you're successful, it's because you deserved it. This is the beautiful lie of modern society. The myth that keeps you running on the hamster wheel without questioning why the wheel exists in the first place. Weber saw through this lie over a century ago. He understood that what we call meritocracy is actually something much more sinister, a perfectly designed control system that makes you believe you're free while keeping you perfectly trapped. Think about your job for a second. You probably believe you chose it, right? You went to school, got qualifications, applied, got hired, your choice, your merit, your success. But Weber would ask you, did you really choose or were you programmed to choose? Because every step of that journey was predetermined by a system that needed you to make exactly those choices. The education system that taught you what skills were valuable. The economic system that created certain jobs and eliminated others. The social system that told you what success looks like. You think you're climbing a ladder, but Weber knew the truth. You're just moving between different floors of the same prison. This is what he called the Protestant work ethic. The idea that work itself is virtuous, that busyness equals goodness, that productivity equals worth. It started with religion, but it evolved into something much more powerful. A secular religion where the office is your church, your boss is your priest, and your paycheck is your salvation. And here's the genius of it. Unlike the old forms of control, kings, armies, physical force, this system makes you want to be controlled. It makes you compete for the privilege of being controlled. It makes you grateful for your chains. You don't just work because you have to. You work because you believe you should. You don't just follow rules because they're enforced. You follow them because you think they're right. You don't just consume because you need things. You consume because buying stuff makes you feel like you're living. Weber called this rationalization, the process by which magical thinking gets replaced by logical thinking. Sounds good, right? Who doesn't want to be logical instead of magical? But here's what Weber realized. When everything becomes rational, nothing remains human. When everything becomes efficient, everything becomes cold. When everything becomes systematic, everyone becomes replaceable. You've been taught that this is evolution. Weber knew it was amputation, the cutting away of everything that makes life worth living in exchange for everything that makes life productive. The question is, are you ready to see how deep this programming goes? You're sitting in a glass box, but you can't see the walls. You're following a script, but you think you're improvising. You're dancing to music you didn't choose, but you believe you're leading. This is the invisible prison Weber discovered, and you're living in it right now. Think about your morning routine. You wake up when the alarm tells you to wake up. You eat what the supermarket decided to stock. You drive routes that city planners designed. You work hours that industrial engineers calculated. You buy things that marketers convinced you to want. You sleep when productivity experts say you should sleep. Where exactly is your freedom in this equation? Weber understood that modern control doesn't need walls or guards. It doesn't need threats or violence. It just needs to make you believe that everything you do is your own idea. The most perfect prison is the one where the prisoner volunteers to stay locked up. He called this the iron cage of rationality, a system so logical, so efficient, so seemingly reasonable that questioning it feels crazy. It's a cage built not from metal, but from procedures, not from bars, but from bureaucracy, not from force, but from forms. Look at your workplace. Every task has a procedure. Every procedure has a form. Every form has an approval process. Every approval process has a hierarchy. Every hierarchy has rules. Every rule has exceptions. Every exception has more forms. You think this is organization. Weber knew it was orchestration, the turning of human beings into instruments in an orchestra they never chose to join, playing music they never learned to love, for an audience that doesn't even listen. But here's the really twisted part. The system has convinced you that this cage is actually freedom. You have choices, right? You can choose your job, your car, your breakfast cereal. You can vote, you can shop, you can swipe left or right. Weber would laugh or cry because what you call choices are just different flavors of the same control. It's like being in a restaurant where you can order anything you want from a menu you didn't write, in a building you didn't design, during hours you didn't set, paying with money you earned doing work you didn't create. The cage gives you the illusion of movement while keeping you perfectly still. It gives you the sensation of progress while keeping you exactly where it needs you. It gives you the feeling of importance while making you completely replaceable. And the most beautiful part of this trap, it makes you defend it. When someone suggests there might be another way to live, you'll argue with them. When someone questions the system, you'll explain why the system is necessary. When someone points out the cage, you'll insist it's actually a home. Weber saw this coming. He watched industrial society being born and realized we weren't building paradise. We were building the most sophisticated prison in human history. A prison where the inmates are also the guards, where the sentenced are also the jury, where the trapped are also the trappers. The question is, now that you can see the bars, what are you going to do about it? Max Weber didn't just stumble upon this insight. He lived it, breathed it, and it nearly destroyed him. This man who dissected the anatomy of control knew exactly what it felt like to be controlled, because the system almost killed him. Weber suffered what we now call a severe mental breakdown. For years, he couldn't work, couldn't write, could barely function. Why? Because he saw too clearly. He understood too deeply. He felt the weight of the iron cage pressing down on his own soul, and it crushed him. But from that darkness came his most powerful insight, what he called the disenchantment of the world. In his masterwork, The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism, Weber revealed how we traded magic for machinery, wonder for efficiency, meaning for productivity. We killed the gods and replaced them with spreadsheets. We abandoned rituals and embraced routines. We stopped asking why and started asking how much and how fast. But Weber's genius wasn't just diagnosing the problem. It was showing us exactly how the control machine operates. He identified 3 types of authority that keep you in line. And here's the scary part. You've experienced all 3, probably. Today, first, there's traditional authority, because that's how we've always done it. Your parents, your teachers, your culture telling you what's normal. You follow these rules not because they make sense, but because questioning them feels like betraying everything you were raised to believe. Second, there's charismatic authority. Because this person is special. Your boss, your politician, your influencer convincing you they know better. You follow them not because of their logic, but because of their personality, their confidence, their ability to make you feel like following them makes you special too. But the third type, this, is where Weber's insight becomes terrifying. Legal rational authority, because it's the system. You follow rules not because of tradition or personality, but because they're official, documented, processed through proper channels. This doesn't feel like control because it feels like fairness. Weber realized this third type of authority is the most dangerous because it's the most invisible. When a king controls you, you know you're being controlled. When a prophet controls you, you can at least see the person doing the controlling. But when the system controls you, there's no person to blame, no face to resist, no individual to confront. In economy and society, Weber showed how bureaucracy, that boring, efficient, rational system of forms and procedures, becomes the perfect tool of domination. Not because it's evil, but because it's so good at pretending to be neutral. Every form you fill out, every procedure you follow, every approval you seek is training you to be obedient, not to a person, but to a process, not to an idea, but to an algorithm, not to a vision, but to a system that has no vision beyond its own perpetuation. Weber called this the polar night of icy darkness. A world where everything works perfectly and nothing means anything. Where everything is organized and nothing is alive. Where everything is rational and nothing is human. The man who revealed this spent years unable to escape it himself. But he found a way to fight back. Through understanding, through seeing, through refusing to pretend the cage was anything other than what it was. The question is, are you ready to stop pretending? Block 5. The spectator's crisis right now. Something is breaking inside you. You can feel it, can't you? That uncomfortable recognition, that sinking realization. That moment when you look at your life and see the machinery instead of the magic. This is your crisis moment. The moment Weber knew would come for anyone who truly understood what he discovered. The moment when the trained you meets the real you, and they don't recognize each other. The trained you says, "But I need this job. I have bills to pay. I have responsibilities." The real you whispers, "But is this really living?" The trained you says, "This is just how the world works. Everyone has to do this." The real you asks, "But who decided that? And why did I agree?" The trained you says, "I'm being practical, I'm being realistic." The real you screams, "I'm dying a little bit every day." This is what Weber called the fundamental tension of modern life, the conflict between the human need for meaning and the system's need for efficiency. Between your soul's hunger for purpose and society's demand for productivity. Between who you could be and who you've been programmed to become. You're not just having an existential crisis. You're having a Weberian crisis. The moment when you realize that everything you thought was natural is actually constructed. Everything you thought was inevitable is actually chosen. Everything you thought was permanent is actually changeable. But here's where it gets really uncomfortable. Weber showed us that most people, when faced with this crisis, make a choice. They choose the cage. They choose the comfort of control over the chaos of freedom. They choose the safety of systems over the uncertainty of authenticity. Why? Because freedom is terrifying. Freedom means responsibility. Freedom means you can't blame the system anymore. You have to create your own meaning, your own purpose, your own life, and that's the hardest work of all. Weber saw this in his own time. He watched people flee from freedom into bureaucracy, from chaos into control, from uncertainty into institutions. He called them specialists without spirit, sensualists without heart. People who had traded their humanity for security and convinced themselves they got a good deal. The question is, what are you going to choose? You can close this video right. Now go back to your routine. Pretend this conversation never happened. You can let the trained you win. You can stay in the cage and tell yourself it's actually quite comfortable, thank you very much. Or you can do what Weber did. You can refuse to pretend. You can stop calling your prison a home. You can stop calling your chains jewelry. You can stop calling your training freedom. But understand this, once you see the cage, you can't unsee it. Once you understand the game, you can't play it unconsciously anymore. Once you wake up, you can't just go back to sleep. Weber warned us, the person who chooses to see will spend the rest of their life living with double vision, seeing both the official version of reality and the actual version. Seeing both what we're told is happening and what's really happening. Seeing both the script and the improvisation. This is your moment. This is your choice. This is your crisis. Who are you going to be? The trained you or the real you? Weber never promised you an easy escape. He never sold you a simple solution. He never offered you 5 steps to freedom or 3 secrets to breaking the system. He gave you something more dangerous and more valuable, the ability to see. And now you see, don't you? You see the procedures that pretend to be natural. You see the efficiency that masks control. You see the rationality that hides irrationality. You see the freedom that's actually a very sophisticated prison. But here's what Weber knew that most people miss. Seeing the cage is the first step to opening it. Understanding the game is the first move toward changing the rules. Recognizing the script is the beginning of improvisation. You're not the same person who started watching this video 12 minutes ago. That person lived in unconscious servitude. That person followed rules without questioning them. That person mistook programming for thinking, conditioning for choosing, survival for living. This person, the one watching right now, has something that person didn't have: awareness. And awareness, Weber understood, is the most subversive force in the universe. It's the thing every control system fears most. It's the virus that can't be contained once it spreads. So what do you do with this awareness? You start small. You question one assumption. You break one routine. You say no to one demand that doesn't serve your actual life. You choose meaning over efficiency, even just once. You remember that you're a human being, not a human resource. But most importantly, you share this vision because Weber's insight dies if it stays trapped in academic books or individual minds. It only lives if it spreads. It only matters if it multiplies. It only works if it wakes others up. This isn't just about your personal freedom, though that matters. This isn't just about your individual awakening, though that's crucial. This is about something Weber saw coming but hoped we might prevent: the complete rationalization of human existence, the total bureaucratization of the human soul, the final victory of systems over spirits. We're running out of time. Every day, the cage gets more sophisticated. Every year, the control gets more invisible. Every generation, the programming gets more complete. But every person who wakes up is a crack in the system. Every mind that questions is a glitch in the program. Every soul that refuses to be processed is proof that the human spirit can't be completely caged. If this burned something inside you, don't let that fire go out. Share this video. Send it to someone who's still sleeping. Post it where others might find it. Because Weber's gift to us wasn't just understanding. It was the possibility of collective awakening. The cage is strong, but it has one fatal weakness. It needs our consent. It needs our cooperation. It needs our unconsciousness. And you're not unconscious anymore. Subscribe to keep this conversation alive, like if you're ready to see more. Share if you think others deserve to wake up too, because the most revolutionary act in a world of control is simply refusing to be controlled. And that revolution starts now, with you, with this moment, with this choice. Weber showed us the cage. Now show others the key.